going to go over to our step 3, which is how to build an emergency fund. It's really important that you have an emergency fund so that you don't end up in a position of having to use your credit cards as the emergency fund. And now you're paying interest, and now you're back in a position to where you're going to have to find an additional way to earn more income to pay it off quicker, or come up with a plan to where you're going to have to budget really aggressively to get them paid off. Having an emergency fund is super, super important, and there's stages to setting up your emergency fund. The biggest thing is going to be know what your survival number is. So as we spoke about in the beginning, your survival number is going to be whatever your lifestyle is that you want to continue or that you are currently living. Then that you add up all those monthly expenses for everything, which is on that personal family budget. So everything that you have outgoing, you total it at the bottom, and that's your monthly survival number. So that monthly survival number is how much it takes for you to live the lifestyle you have. Now, you may revisit what that looks like once you see your number, which most people often do. You're like, oh, I didn't realize I spend that much money on those things, and I don't need those. And you make a good decision to remove some of those things that you don't need, because right now you're trying to get your survival number lower to either not live paycheck to paycheck, or not use credit cards, or invest into your future. So as you get your survival number, then you start your emergency fund, and you want to start it at a minimum $1,000 in that emergency fund. Now, that emergency fund is going to be a liquid fund, such as a savings account, where you can easily pull from if an emergency comes up. So you want to have at minimum $1,000 in a savings account that you don't touch unless it's an emergency. And then you want to aggressively pay down all your debts. Now, once you've paid down your debts, we need to start shifting into building your emergency fund. So as you can see here, there's going to be different stages of what that emergency fund is going to look like. And in that emergency fund, you're going to have the $1,000 for the first level 1. And then you're going to go to level 2, which is 1 month of your survival numbers. So if it took me $5,000 to keep my lifestyle on a monthly basis, I now need to take that $1,000 and make it $5,000. So I need to create an aggressive plan within my family budget that allows me to save to get to that $5,000 a month number. Once I've gotten to that level, then the goal is going to be to get to 3 months of my survival number, which means $15,000. So after I've gotten to level 2, my next focus while I'm working on investing as well is going to be to get to level 3, which is 3 times whatever my monthly budget is that I need. Having an emergency saving account at level 3 protects us from whenever a storm hits. So it keeps us from taking 1 or 2 steps back to where now we owe again and have debt that we're going to have to pay off. So it's really important to make sure we have that cushion. And you're going to find it's a lot more difficult to be able to take from that money when you've saved so hard from it, unless it's a true emergency. So it really keeps you in line with being in a position to create wealth and invest into your future as well. So emergency fund is a must. If you already have your debts paid off, you really need to be at level 2, working to level 3, moving forward, and make sure that you're getting to the next step in your financial plan. Couple key tips that you can do in that, and I know for many it's, you're changing a habit, you're changing a mindset, which is going to take time in order for you to do that. It's going to take you putting in the effort. And so setting up a direct deposit from your paycheck directly into a separate savings account so it's out of sight, out of mind is the first thing that you can do. You can go to your HR and you can say, out of each paycheck, I want X amount of dollars to go into this separate savings account. Maybe not even an account that you have access to easily that's linked up to anything, so the money stays there. It takes more effort to go and actually get the money from the account. And then you can also set up an automatic transfer from your checking to your savings if you don't want to set it up from your paycheck, that every single month it's automatically going to move money over. So it's automatically done for you and you don't think twice about it. So now we're going to talk about maximizing your retirement contribution. I think it's really important when we talk about this to understand what that even looks like. Most of my clients that I talk to that have very little in their retirement account or none, I'll ask them, are you planning to invest into your retirement? And those that are say, oh yeah, I do. I match what my employer matches. So if their employer puts 3% of their income, or if the employer matches part of it, so for instance, a client has, if they invest 3%, then their employer will invest 1.5% or 3%, depending on the employer, then they'll invest that much because the employer is matching it. That's amazing. That's great. It's the first step to starting that habit of building towards your retirement. But that's not fully investing your retirement account, and that's not going to get you into a position to be able to most likely retire the way that you want to. So you want to make sure from when you can start, and ideally, with my son, and we always have the conversation with both my kids, as soon as you have an actual paycheck coming in from employment after they're done with college and they're working in their field, you start retirement. Actually, my son, when he was 18, he worked at Sam's Club, and he was putting into retirement then as well. But you put into retirement as soon as you can, and you get to a position where you create your budget around being able to fully invest your retirement. Now, that's going to change each year, how much we can invest, and depending on the type of income that you receive changes. So it's really important to know what that looks like. But I find that's the biggest thing that most people don't realize with retirement is how much it takes, to retire, which we're going to have additional course and information on that you're going to go through, but also, or that you have access to, but also how much, do you need to retire, but how much can I retire? And then just knowing that that's a pillar that it's not even an option. It's part of your family budget. If you want to retire, you have to start planning for that retirement right away. It's hard to try to catch up at a later age, which we'll look at that information. And if you're, older and you're just starting, what does that look like? Compounding interest is super important, because if you don't understand how that works and you wait until you're 30, 40 and you just start planning for retirement, you have no pension and you're, banking on Social Security, that's going to be a problem, and that's a huge problem that most people encounter today. So having the information of what that looks like now is going to help you make good decisions moving forward and taking ownership for your life.